I took a fast food night shift. There are strange rules to follow. The rules were simple. At first, I never wanted to work the night shift. But bills don't pay themselves, and the only job I could find on short notice was at Grady's Burgers, a 24-hour fast food joint tucked away on the outskirts of town. The place had been around for decades, long before I was born, and yet somehow, it still felt like a relic from an even older era. The faded neon sign hummed weakly in the night, casting a sickly yellow glow over the empty parking lot. I showed up 11:45 p.m., 15 minutes early for my first shift. The only car in the lot was an old, beat-up station wagon, paint peeling off the hood. Inside, the restaurant was eerily quiet, except for the buzzing of a flickering fluorescent light. A man in a grease-stained uniform stood behind the counter, staring blankly at the register. He looked up when I entered and gave me a nod. "You must be Daniel." His voice was monotone, tired. "I'm Rick, night manager. You read the rules." I frowned. "Rules?" Rick sighed and reached under the counter, pulling out a laminated sheet of paper. "Read them. Memorize them. And for God's sake, follow them." He shoved the paper into my hands and turned away, muttering something under his breath. The paper felt oddly warm, like someone had been holding it for a long time. The rules were printed in bold, blocky letters. Rules for the night shift at Grady's Burgers. Rule number 1. Lock the doors at exactly 12:01 a.m. Don't open them for anyone until sunrise. No exceptions. Rule number 2. If the phone rings, do not answer it. There should be no calls at night. Rule number 3. If you see a man in a red hoodie standing outside, ignore him. Do not look directly at him. Do not acknowledge his presence. Rule number 4. At 3:15 a.m., you will hear knocking from the freezer. Do not open the door. It is not an employee. Rule number 5. The cameras will occasionally turn off. If you hear static from the intercom when this happens, hide under the counter until it stops. Rule number 6. Do not serve any customers between 2 a.m. and 2:17 a.m. If someone orders food during this time, tell them the grill is off. Rule number 7. If you see someone in the lobby who looks like me, even if I'm standing right next to you, run. I let out a nervous laugh. This is some kind of joke. Rick didn't smile. He took a deep drag from a cigarette and exhaled slowly. "You'll see." I wanted to press him for more information, but before I could, the clock on the wall clicked over to 12:01 a.m. Rick's demeanor changed instantly. He grabbed his keys and sprinted to the door, locking it with a quick, practiced motion. The way his hands trembled told me this wasn't just some workplace prank. Something was wrong. 12:30 a.m. The man in the red hoodie. For the first hour, nothing happened. I tried to push the eerie feeling aside and focus on work, cleaning trays, refilling ketchup dispensers, and wiping down tables. But then, at 12:30 a.m., I saw him. He stood just outside the glass doors, motionless. A man in a red hoodie. His face was obscured by the hood, and he wasn't moving, just standing there, facing the restaurant. I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening around the damp rag in my hands. The rule flashed in my mind. Do not look directly at him. Do not acknowledge his presence. I turned away, forcing my hands to keep working. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I could feel him still there, watching. I glanced at Rick. He was at the register, pointedly staring at the screen, jaw clenched. "Just ignore him," he muttered under his breath. "He'll go away." I forced myself to nod and returned to wiping the counter. Minutes passed. I could see the man's reflection in the stainless steel soda machine, still standing there, completely still. Then, something changed. The reflection in the machine shifted, but I hadn't heard him move. I squeezed my eyes shut. Don't look. Don't acknowledge him. A faint tap against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I clenched my fists. Ignore it. Ignore it. The taps grew louder, more insistent. Then, without warning, the intercom crackled to life with a burst of static. Rick's head snapped up. Down. Now. I didn't hesitate. I dropped to the floor, crawling under the counter as the static grew louder, warping into something that almost sounded like whispering. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Rick peeked over the counter first. His face was pale, but he nodded. He's gone. I slowly rose to my feet, glancing toward the glass doors. The man in the red hoodie had disappeared. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. What the hell kind of job did I just sign up for? 3:15 a.m. The freezer. The rest of the shift was uneventful, until the freezer knocked. I had just finished wiping down the deep fryer when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, rhythmic, from the back of the restaurant. I turned to Rick, my mouth dry. That's the freezer, isn't it? Rick nodded slowly. Don't open it. A shiver ran down my spine. The knocking continued, a steady, deliberate rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. Then a voice. Help, please, it's cold. I can't breathe. My stomach twisted. It was a woman's voice, weak, trembling. I think I'm trapped. Please let me out. I took a step toward the freezer, but Rick grabbed my arm. Don't. But what if someone's actually in there? My voice was barely above a whisper. Rick's grip tightened. It's not a person. The voice grew more desperate. Please. I don't want to die in here. Something in my gut told me Rick was right. The voice sounded off. Hollow. Too perfect, like a recording. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the knocking stopped. Silence. Rick exhaled slowly. You're learning. I didn't sleep when I got home that morning. The sounds of the knocking and the whispering static still echoed in my head. And something told me this was only the beginning. The grill never turns off. By the time I dragged myself back to Grady's Burgers for my second shift, I felt like a walking corpse. I hadn't slept at all. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the knocking, the whispering static, the tap, tap, tap against the glass. And worst of all, that voice from inside the freezer. When I arrived at 11:45 p.m., Rick was already there, smoking outside by the dumpster. He didn't say anything at first, just took a long drag and exhaled into the cold night air. You came back, he finally muttered. I swallowed, my throat dry. Did I really have a choice? Rick huffed, a humorless chuckle, flicking his cigarette to the ground. Guess not. We walked inside, and I felt that same suffocating weight settle over my chest. The air smelled of grease and stale fryer oil, but beneath that, something else. Something I couldn't quite name. I glanced at the rule sheet still taped behind the counter. The words stared back at me, cold and unchanging. Tonight, I wouldn't be caught off guard. Or so I thought. 1:55 a.m., the unwelcome customer. The first 2 hours were relatively normal, if you could call this place normal. No man in a red hoodie. No knocking freezer. But then, at exactly 1:55 a.m., Rick stiffened. Almost time. I glanced at the clock above the drive-thru window. 1:56 a.m. A sick feeling pooled in my stomach. Rule number 6. Do not serve any customers between 2 a.m. and 2:17 a.m. If someone orders food during this time, tell them the grill is off. I turned toward the drive-thru window, half expecting something to already be there. The parking lot was empty. Nothing but the dim glow of the streetlights and the flickering neon Grady's Burgers sign. 1:59 a.m. Rick stood by the register, arms crossed, watching. Then, at exactly 2 a.m., the drive-thru speaker crackled. Welcome to Grady's. May I take your order? My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't said that. The voice over the speaker wasn't mine. It wasn't Rick's either. It was deeper, hollow, wrong. The static flared louder, and then Yes, I like a number 5 combo. Extra bacon. The voice on the other end sent chills down my spine. It was flat, like an emotionless recording. I looked at Rick, unsure what to do. He gave me a sharp glare. Follow the rule. I swallowed hard and pressed the intercom button. Sorry, our grill is off for maintenance right now. We can't take any orders. Silence. For a moment, I thought they were gone. Then, the voice came back. You don't understand. A pause. I'm already here. A cold shiver ran down my spine. A slow, deliberate knock echoed from the drive-thru window. Rick didn't move. His expression didn't change. Don't look, he said under his breath. I gripped the counter, every muscle in my body screaming at me to turn around. But I didn't. Another knock, then another. The sound grew more urgent, more insistent. I squeezed my eyes shut. Don't look. Don't look. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the knocking stopped. The intercom crackled again. Next time, I'll come inside. And then, nothing but silence. 3 a.m. The grill never turns off. By 3 a.m., I was barely holding it together. The fear clung to me like a second skin, making it hard to think, hard to breathe. Rick barely acknowledged what had happened. He simply went back to counting inventory like it was just another Tuesday. I tried to distract myself by wiping down the prep station, but then I noticed something strange. The grill. It was still on. Even though no one had used it since before 2 a.m., the surface was glowing red hot, grease bubbling on the edges. A low, hissing sound filled the air. I turned to Rick. Hey, should the grill still be on? Rick froze. His head snapped toward the grill, his face suddenly pale. Shut it off. I hesitated. The intensity in his voice unsettled me. I reached out and twisted the knob to OFF. The red glow dimmed, but the hissing sound didn't stop. The grease on the surface was still bubbling, more aggressively now, like something was moving beneath it. I took a step back. Something bulged beneath the surface, like something trying to push its way through. And then, before I could react, something slammed against the metal from underneath. Bang! The entire grill shook, sending spatulas clattering to the floor. Bang! Bang! I stumbled backward. The hissing turned into a deep, guttural growl. Then a voice. Not from the intercom. Not from outside. From the grill itself. You shouldn't have turned it off. My blood ran cold. The surface of the grill buckled. Something underneath pushing up against the metal like it was trying to break free. Rick grabbed my arm and yanked me back. Get away from it. The entire station shook as the grill screamed. A horrible, metallic wail that rattled the windows. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the noise stopped. The grill went completely dark, and then a slow, quiet knock echoed from inside the freezer. Knock, knock, knock. I turned to Rick, my hands shaking. I thought the knocking only happened at 3:15. Rick didn't answer, because this time, the freezer door was already open, and someone was standing inside. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The figure took a slow, shuffling step forward, bare feet scraping against the tile. The dim overhead light flickered, casting long shadows across the kitchen. I forced myself to look up, at its face, and then my mind snapped, because the person standing in the freezer was me. My reflection stepped out of the freezer. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. The thing standing in the freezer was me. Same uniform. Same tired, bloodshot eyes. Same exact cut on my arm from where I'd scraped against the fryer earlier. But something was wrong. The way it stood, unnatural. Its head was tilted just a little too far to the side, its arms hanging limply at its sides, fingers twitching like a glitching video frame. Its skin was pale, too pale, almost translucent, and when it opened its mouth, I realized it had no teeth. Rick grabbed my wrist and yanked me backward. Run. The moment he spoke, the thing lunged. I barely had time to react before it slammed against the counter where I had just been standing. Its head twisted unnaturally, snapping toward me with a sickening crunch. I stumbled back, my legs weak beneath me. The thing in the freezer mimicked my movements, like a reflection lagging behind reality. Then it grinned. Wide. Too wide. You shouldn't be here. The voice was mine, but distorted, stretched like an old cassette tape being played in slow motion. It took another step forward. The light above flickered wildly. Rick didn't hesitate. He grabbed the freezer door and slammed it shut. The moment the latch clicked, a deafening bang rattled the metal. Then another. Bang, bang, bang. A garbled laugh echoed from inside. It sounded warped, like my voice had been recorded and played back at random speeds. Rick exhaled sharply, his forehead slick with sweat. He grabbed a chair and jammed it under the freezer handle. That should hold it. I couldn't breathe. What the hell was that? Rick turned to me, eyes dark. That's why we don't open the freezer. 4 a.m., the diner's secret. I sat on the counter, gripping my knees. I felt like I was going to be sick. What the hell is this place? I finally whispered. Rick sighed, lighting a cigarette with trembling hands. He took a long drag before answering. Grady's has been here since before I was born. Since before my dad was born. And it's always been like this. I swallowed hard. Then why do you work here? Rick let out a dry, humorless chuckle. Same reason you do. No one else was hiring. I shook my head. No, this isn't normal. Rick. That thing, it was me. It looked exactly like me. Rick nodded. It does that sometimes. I stared at him, waiting for more of an explanation. But none came. Instead, he stood up, stretched, and tossed his cigarette into the sink. Look, you made it this far. You handled yourself better than most. Just one more hour, and your shift is over. You follow the rules, you'll be fine. He said it like it was easy, like it was normal. I glanced at the freezer door, the metal still rattling softly, like something was breathing inside. There was nothing normal about this. 4:33 a.m. The intercom calls my name. The next 30 minutes were uneventful. The man in the red hoodie never came back. The grill stayed cold, and the freezer door never opened. I started to think maybe, just maybe, I'd make it through the night. Then the intercom crackled. My body tensed immediately. The last time that happened, something knocked on the drive-thru window. But this time, a voice whispered through the speaker. Daniel. My name. My blood went ice cold. Rick froze at the register. His expression was unreadable, but I saw his fingers tighten into a fist. The intercom crackled again. Daniel, I know you're there. The voice was soft, familiar, and then I realized why. It was my mother's voice. My stomach twisted violently. My mother had died 3 years ago. Daniel, please. I need your help. I took a step toward the intercom, my hand shaking. My body felt numb, like I was moving underwater. It's not real. It's not real. But my mother's voice was so close, so desperate. Daniel, honey, please just open the door. I need to see you. Tears burned at the edges of my eyes. I could almost picture her standing outside in the cold, waiting. I reached out to press the button. Rick grabbed my wrist. His eyes were filled with something I'd never seen before. Fear. It's not her, he hissed. Do not answer it. The voice on the intercom changed. No longer pleading. No longer sad. Just angry. You don't want to help me. A long pause. Then a low, distorted whisper. Then I'll come inside. Every single light in the restaurant flickered. Then bang. Something slammed against the front doors. Once. Twice. Then silence. The intercom crackled one last time. A voice, no longer my mother's, but something deep, guttural, inhuman. See you soon. And then, static. 5 a.m. Almost over. Rick and I didn't move for a long time. The door stayed locked. The cameras flickered once, then came back on. Slowly, the restaurant settled into eerie silence. Then, at 4:59 a.m., Rick stood up and stretched like nothing had happened. Shift's over soon. I couldn't even respond. My brain was still stuck on that voice. On my mother. At 5 a.m., the tension in the air lifted. I don't know how to explain it. It was like an invisible weight had been pressing down on my chest all night, and suddenly it was gone. Rick unlocked the doors. Go home. Get some rest. Come back tomorrow at 11:45. I hesitated. And if I don't, Rick gave me a knowing look. You will. 5:30 a.m. One last glimpse. The sun had barely begun to rise as I pulled out of the parking lot. The whole town still felt asleep, streets empty, windows dark. I exhaled a shaky breath. Just one shift. I survived one shift. I turned onto the main road, my apartment only 10 minutes away. And then, in my rearview mirror, a man in a red hoodie stood on the side of the road, motionless, facing me. I pressed down on the gas, my hands gripping the wheel, so tight my knuckles turned white. But just before I turned the corner, I made one mistake. I looked at him, and for the briefest moment, I swear to God, he grinned. The rules are changing. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that grin, stretched too wide, teeth too white. I saw my own reflection stepping out of the freezer. I heard my mother's voice whispering through the intercom. By the time my alarm went off at 10:30 p.m., I felt like I hadn't rested at all. But I still got up, got dressed, drove back to Grady's Burgers like a moth to an open flame. Rick was waiting outside again. This time, he wasn't smoking. He just stood there, arms crossed, watching the parking lot. He didn't even look at me as I approached. Anything weird happen after you left? I hesitated. I saw him. Rick finally turned his head. The guy in the red hoodie. I nodded. He let out a long breath. Yeah, he does that. His tone was too casual, like this was just another part of the job. I swallowed hard. Who is he? Rick didn't answer. Instead, he pushed open the door. Come on, we're late. I wanted to press him for more, but something in his expression told me I didn't want to know. Not yet. 12:45 a.m. The new rule. The first hour was quiet. Too quiet. No customers. No intercom voices. No knocking freezer. Even the air felt different, like the entire restaurant was holding its breath. I glanced at the rule sheet taped behind the counter. The same 7 rules stared back at me. But something felt wrong. Rick caught me looking, checking the rules. I nodded. He hesitated. You should. Something in his tone made my stomach knot. Slowly, I stepped closer. My eyes scanned the list, reading over each rule one by one. Then I froze, because there was an 8th rule, one that wasn't there before. 8. If you notice a new rule, follow it immediately. Do not question it. A cold chill ran down my spine. Rick, I whispered, did you add this? He shook his head, his jaw clenched. No. I stared at the paper, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. Something changed the rules, and we had no choice but to obey. 1:55 a.m. The red hoodie returns. Rick was tense. I could see in the way his shoulders were drawn tight, the way his hands kept clenching and unclenching at his sides. I was about to ask what was wrong when I saw him. Through the drive-thru window, the man in the red hoodie, standing perfectly still in the empty parking lot, facing the restaurant. I barely managed to choke back a gasp. He's back, I whispered. Rick didn't look. He didn't even move. Don't acknowledge him. The intercom crackled. Hey kid. The voice was low, smooth, familiar. My stomach dropped. It was my own voice. I know you can hear me. The intercom was off. The screen was dark. No order was placed. Yet my voice kept speaking. Come outside. Rick grabbed my arm. His grip was like iron. Step away from the window. Now. I forced myself to look away, even as the intercom continued to whisper in my own voice. I just want to talk. I won't hurt you. I promise. Then, tap, tap, tap. He was knocking on a glass. I bit down on my tongue, resisting the overwhelming urge to turn back around. Then the knocking stopped. A long silence. And then, a soft chuckle. See you soon. And just like that, the intercom went dead. 3 a.m. The wrong reflection. The rest of the night was a blur of static-filled silence. I couldn't think, couldn't focus. By the time 3 a.m. rolled around, I found myself in the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. I gripped the edges of the sink, staring at my reflection in the grimy mirror. My face was pale, my eyes sunken from exhaustion. Then my reflection blinked, but I didn't. I felt my heart stop. Slowly, my reflection's lips curled into a smile. You're slipping, it whispered. I couldn't breathe. It tilted its head at an unnatural angle, like it was studying me. You won't last much longer. I stepped back, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My reflection didn't move. It just stood there, grinning, watching. Then, the lights flickered, and for the briefest moment, I saw something behind me. A shadow, tall, grinning. I spun around, but the bathroom was empty. When I turned back to the mirror, my reflection was normal again. I stumbled out of the bathroom, my entire body shaking. I need to get out of here. 4:45 a.m. The final warning. Rick didn't say much after I told him what happened. He just nodded like he heard it all before, like he already knew. I clenched my fists. You know something you're not telling me. Rick sighed, rubbing his temples. I'm trying to keep you alive. Alive from what? I snapped. Rick looked me dead in the eyes. From this place. From them. I shivered. Who's them? Rick hesitated. Then, in a low voice, he said, the ones who make the rules. A long silence stretched between us. I swallowed hard. You mean the owner? Rick gave a bitter laugh. You think this place has an owner? A deep unease settled in my stomach. Then who put up the rules? Rick didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Or worse, because he did. And then, just before the clock hit 5 a.m., Rick muttered one final warning. The rules are changing, kid. He exhaled slowly. And that means so are they. The last shift. I should have quit. I should have driven away and never looked back. But something about this place, about the rules, about the things hiding in the dark, had its claws in me. And deep down I knew I wasn't getting out. Not yet. 11:45 p.m. The last shift begins. Rick wasn't outside waiting this time. The parking lot was empty, except for a single red hoodie lying in the middle of the pavement. I swallowed hard, keeping my distance as I approached the door. The keypad beeped as I entered the code. The lock clicked. I stepped inside. The lights flickered to life, and the rules had changed again. The new rules. The list was longer now. I counted them, my fingers trembling. 12 rules. New ones were scrawled in shaky handwriting, as if written in a hurry. I forced myself to read. Rule number 1. You must clock in before 12 a.m. Do not arrive late. Rule number 2. If you see a man in a red hoodie outside, do not engage. Ignore him. Rule number 3. The grill will turn on by itself. You do not start it. You do not turn it off. Rule number 4. The intercom will activate randomly. Do not respond. Do not listen. Rule number 5. The freezer must remain shut at all times. Do not look inside. Rule number 6. If you hear knocking from the drive-thru window, do not open it, even if they sound familiar. Rule number 7. At 3 a.m., take your break. Do not look at the security cameras. Rule number 8. If you notice a new rule, follow it immediately. Do not question it. Rule number 9. The bathroom mirror is not a mirror after 2 a.m. Do not look into it. Rule number 10. If a customer arrives, they're not real. Take their order, hand them an empty bag, and close the window. Do not make eye contact. Rule number 11. If you hear your name whispered anywhere inside the restaurant, hide under the counter. Do not come out until the whispering stops. Rule number 12. You must leave before 5:13 a.m. Not 5:12. Not 5:14. I staggered back from the list, my blood turning to ice. What the hell was happening? 12:30 a.m. Where's Rick? I checked the kitchen. Empty. The storage room. Empty. The bathrooms. Empty. Rick wasn't here. I pulled out my phone to call him, but the screen just glitched, lines of static distorting the numbers. A cold dread coiled in my stomach. I wasn't just alone tonight. I was trapped. 1:55 a.m. The wrong order. The drive-thru beeped. I flinched, my body tensing. The camera showed a car at the window, a black sedan, but there was no one in the driver's seat. The order screen glitched, then displayed one word. Hello. My hands trembled as I reached for the empty bag. My mouth was dry. I knew the rules. Take the order. Hand them an empty bag. Close the window. Do not make eye contact. I slowly reached out and placed the bag on the ledge. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the bag was gone. I slammed the window shut. The car rolled forward, and just before it disappeared around the corner, I saw it. A face pressed against the back seat window. Not human. Not alive. Just watching me. 2:45 a.m. The thing in the bathroom. I knew rule number 9. After 2 a.m., the bathroom mirror is not a mirror. But some stupid, awful part of me needed to see. I stepped inside. The mirror was black. Not just dark, empty. Like someone had carved a hole into the world. Then, my reflection stepped out. I didn't move, but it did. It reached toward me, its fingers bending the wrong way. And it whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." I ran. 3 a.m. The security cameras. Break time. I sat in the back, my heart pounding, staring at the monitor. I knew rule number 7. Do not look at the security cameras. But something caught my eye. A figure was standing in the kitchen. Tall, motionless, staring at the freezer. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it wasn't Rick. Then slowly, it turned its head toward the camera. The screen flickered. I saw my own face, grinning. The screen shut off, and then the freezer door creaked open. 4 a.m., the end of the shift. The last hour was a nightmare of whispers, flickering lights, and shadows moving just out of sight. I followed the rules. I didn't check the cameras again. I didn't answer the intercom. I did not look at the bathroom mirror. And when the whispering started, I hid under the counter. The air was cold. My breath came out in shallow gasps. Something moved in the kitchen. I saw feet, bare, pale, twitching, moving slowly past the counter. It knew I was there. It stopped. Silence. Then, a soft laugh. And then it was gone. The whispering stopped. The lights flickered back to normal. And the clock read 5:12 a.m. I ran. 5:13 a.m. The exit. I threw open the door. The air outside felt wrong, like I had stepped into a world that wasn't mine. The parking lot was endless. The street lights stretched too far. The sky was too dark. And standing by my car was Rick. Only, his head was tilted at an unnatural angle. His mouth moved, but his voice came from behind me. "You stayed too long." I turned. The man in the red hoodie stood at the door. I couldn't breathe. Rick, or what was left of him, grinned. "Run." I did. 5:15 a.m., the final rule. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember anything after that moment. But when I woke up, my phone was in my hand. A text message from an unknown number. One final rule. 13. You can't quit. Not ever. See you tonight. My shift starts in an hour. And I know I have to go back. The end.